Okay, guys, it has been a minute, but we are back. And today I kind of want to talk about the truth behind what it's like to actually trade for a living. People think it's Lamborghinis, fancy dinners, working an hour a day, but the freedom does not come right away. So I just want to touch on that a little bit. So everyone dreams of quitting their job, obviously, trading full time. That's kind of like the whole point. But before you do that, I just feel like you need to know the truth. It's not just all coffee shops and Lambos and shit like that. It's pressure, it's discipline, it's emotional control, it's psychology, it's a million other things, outside of that. Yeah, it's a good decision. I will say it's a good thing. I love people who choose to start trading and go all in and stuff. But there's a few things that you do need to know before going into it, so that you don't end up like super disappointed. Although yes, all the stuff you see online can be true. It's just not in the blink of an eye. So when I decided to go all in trading and decided that this is really what I wanted to do, I was still in school, still am for the sole purpose of playing sports, but that still means that yes, I do need to attend a minimal amount of classes. I thought it's like okay, I'm gonna wake up, just chill, make money, and then do whatever the fuck I want. But I was glued to the charts. It was over analyzing, just super stressful, because when you do go all in and it's like your only option, it's like you kind of put more pressure than you should on it, which is why for a lot of people it doesn't work out, because it's like obviously when you're trading you shouldn't give yourself another option. I don't have another option, but I'm also not rushing the process, because obviously the more you rush, the more pressure, the more mistakes. But it was just hours and hours and hours. And I've made TikToks about this, how like, you quit a 9 to 5 because you don't want to work 8 hours a day, but you end up working 16 instead. And the truth is that it kind of is the reality, especially if you are documenting, if you're not filming and doing all these things, then probably not. But as someone who is documenting my journey, as well as, like running a whole team, taking care of a bunch of people, yes, my days are crazy, and they do run from 12, 16, 18 hours long, because there's filming, there's editing, there's a bunch of other things, but it's also just stressful going into trading, knowing that there is uncertainty. When you do work a job, you know that no matter what, you're getting that paycheck every 2 weeks. Therefore, running into trading and doing all these things, you don't have that security, right? And it's like, it's okay. Some people are fine with that. I am fine with that. But when you do have bills and all these things, it's like that is a little unsettling, I will say. Um, Especially if you're trading prop firms and funders and stuff. These companies will give you the hardest time for a payout. Like you're not just gonna get in there, make 10K over the minimal amount, and then 3 days later you're gonna have 10K in your pocket. Some companies never actually even pay you out at all. In case you did not know that, that is the reality behind prop firms and shit like that. Again, I just want to preface, I'm not making this to discourage people from trading. I think the more the merrier. I encourage people to start trading. I just kind of want to be transparent. I've always, focused on being transparent. So I just want to give you guys the reality. And so, yeah, same exact thing about the pressure. When trading becomes your only income, your mindset shifts a lot, because realistically, like every loss just feels like the end of the fucking world. Because it's like, I need this. Like, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? If you have an option to have a side hustle to pay those bills while you're learning to trade, I highly suggest that. If you want to go all in, do what you will. I didn't have anything to fall back on, so I couldn't necessarily do that at 100%. But, it just comes to a point where you're forcing trades because you need to make money, right? So that's just what I was saying earlier. That's a dangerous mindset to be in. If you're going on the charts with that mindset, that's really not something you want to be doing, to be super, super honest, which is why I say if you can have some sort of security on the side to make sure those bills are paid, your journey will go a lot smoother, because, you're not going to be literally like choking in needing to make that money. But it's just to treat it like a business, and budget, savings, discipline, stuff like that, super, super, super important as well, going into your journaling and everything else that I've talked about on here. If I'm being super honest, the golden number is kind of like 6 months. 6 months of, consistent profits, a solid risk management plan, just savings, at least like 6 months of expensive. So rent, car payment, stuff like that. And, just go like that allows you to go in with a much calmer mindset. So if you're planning on dropping everything, quitting everything, and getting into trading, especially if you're an adult, you have kids, you have actual responsibilities, I highly suggest you do that. Have, like I said, 6 months preferably of, a cushion of what if I don't make money in trading? I can still, feed my kids. I can still pay my bills, stuff like that. Obviously, if you're younger, that's not necessarily something you need to worry about. And a lot of people can fall back on their parents. But not everyone has those options. Like I said, I didn't. So, yeah, just stuff like that. But it's a beautiful thing at the end of the day. Once you master the game, the freedom follows, the profits follow. Once you have discipline and consistency, and you actually put in that work, it'll all come back to you. It's just people lack to be realistic when they get into trading, I find, and they lack the knowledge of what it's actually like. And so I just want people to be aware, because I don't want any of y'all like going to broke and like ending up on the streets because you didn't know these things, right? So yeah, you can work from anywhere, which is super, super cool. Your house while you're traveling anywhere, which is the biggest freedom probably ever. That's not easy, but it's definitely worth it. And every struggle with trading teaches you discipline and, you know, consistency, and just reminds you why it is that you're doing what you're doing. That being said, I'm still all for trading. I highly encourage you guys to learn the skill. It truly is life changing, but it's not only about chasing the dream, it's about building it and just taking your time to, learn, grow, and protect your capital and risk management and all these other things that we talk about all the time. It just all comes hand in hand all together, which is what actually creates your journey. And so, if you go into it with the goal of not the goal being quitting your job fast, but just the goal being like to build this life skill that will allow you to be free forever. It'll go a lot better for you, I promise you, from my own experience and from seeing people's journey who, I've been helping and who I've been teaching. It's really just all about mindset, the way you look at it, the way you go into it. But yeah, so I'm going to be posting a few videos, along Christmas break. Obviously all pre-recorded, just little things. I feel like I've been super inactive on here, and it's sometimes just necessary to come and make a longer video than just like a 30-second TikTok, and actually like break stuff down for you guys and explain why it is that I give these opinions, or suggest certain things to you guys. So that's going to be all for today. I hope you guys, use this information, and actually implement it, and, make sure that you're just going in there with the right mindset and that you stay disciplined. And so, yeah, that's all for this week. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, happy trading.